everybody is having a good week so far. We're just going to get all set up here and good to go, and then we're gonna send it. Awesome. Looks like we should be all set here. So, like I said, I hope everybody is having a good week so far. Got some pretty exciting stuff today. I have a little bit of a haul. And then for the main thing that we're going to be taking a look at is going to be, if I can speak English, the Stan Sakai TMNT, the Dagu run, specifically that he did for IDW. Stan Sakai is somebody who's newer to me, anyways, with with cartooning and everything like that. I really wasn't too obviously I knew who he was, but never really looked at his books or was too familiar with him. Dave over at West Coast Avengers about 2 or 3 months ago or so had done an interview with Stan Sakai, and that kind of sparked an interest for me to start tracking down some of his work. And I finally found an entire run of that the 5 issues that he did for the Turtles, for the IDW stuff. So I figured that we could take a look through that and see what we got going on there. And then we do have the smaller haul. I have a handful of books that I picked up, not any back issues, but just new off the racks. Before we get going, we got to get our housekeeping in. So as always, I'm just going to go ahead and throw this into the chat. Head over to my website and pick up some issues. Pick up some prints from me as well. I did pull a couple of these things down because I'm going to be going to ADPCon, as everybody pretty much knows at this point. That's going to be here it's in 4 weeks now. So that's something I've been really building towards. So once we do get to ADPCon, I'm going to have a bunch of new product available, t-shirts, just cartooning tools, guides, all that kind of stuff. So the shop is kind of the shop/website is going to get an overhaul sometime in like the next 6 to 8 weeks, I would say. So we'll have a big update. But in the meantime, we do have both issues of the anthology available, and then I also have some of my sketchbooks available, which again come with a free drawing on the back. And those are $2 a piece, so feel free to hit those up. All right, we're going to get rocking here and kind of show off some more stuff. So Mahdi Khenes is I guess somebody who's also in like the underground outlaw sort of community. So all of the sickos kind of stick together. So yeah, it's like I think Nick Forker's has some pages in here, but it's mostly Mahdi doing all of the work that's in here. His work is just insanely good. I honestly don't know what else to say about it. A lot of this stuff is pretty outlandish. Obviously, it's underground goodness. The reasoning why I did want to show this off, he did a pinup gallery, and I did a pinup for it. So here it is. So if you wanted to head over to Mahdi's website, it's superheroes.com. That's Z Superheroes. The link's already in the description, so if you want to head over to his website, pick this up, feel free. And then this is number 1 of the same issue. And if you're a big cartoonist kayfabe or Jim Rugg guy, this is a big pickup, I think. That kind of goes underneath the radar. You got a Jim Rugg pinup in here, and then you have your Jim Mahfood pinup in here as well. And I can't remember Brandon Graham. I can't remember who did this one. But yeah, a bunch of underground cartoonists kind of in our community here, cranking out comics for each other. So like I said, go over to Mahdi's website and pick them up. Links in the description. And then this is a print for Yirasuka that I got for doing the work and everything like that. So there we are. Let's go ahead and get into the meat and potatoes. Look at some Stan Sakai Turtles. So like I said at the start of the video, we got all 5 of the issues here. I picked this up in a bundle deal. Like I said, I'm not somebody who's super familiar with Stan Sakai's work. Obviously, I know who he is, being a Turtle fan over the years, and I'm a big Turtle toy collector. And Usagi has a handful of toys that he has gotten over the years. So that's really where my familiarity really starts with Stan Sakai stuff. Um, and then, like I was saying, Dave at West Coast Avengers, probably about 2 or 3 months ago or so, did an interview with Stan Sakai, and that kind of really, you know, drives up an interest to start tracking his stuff down. And then, sure as shit, I walked into the comic shop over last weekend and had a full run of this. So I went ahead and picked them up. It was like $10, I think, that I paid for all 5 of these issues. So pretty good deal. But this has a wraparound cover to it. And usually I'm not a fan of like wraparound covers, mainly for the fact I like having 2 separate pieces of art. But every once in a while they really work. And I think this is one of those wraparound covers that really has a good aesthetic to it. So I'm not too familiar with this hi-fi design. Who did the coloring work? I have to do a little bit more research into that. Like, this is literally the first time I'm opening these up. So I don't know if this is like his studio name, or if this is like a separate company, or if this is like a guy that kind of goes by a moniker. I honestly have no idea. That's something that I have to look into. But I thought that was kind of interesting, and they even had that on the front here, hi-fi design. So I would assume that's his studio. He's mainly just a solo guy, but he'll have his assistants and everything like that kind of helping him out. So it's a possibility it could be one of those guys. Once I pertain that knowledge, I will let you know. So yeah, when it comes to this stuff, like I said, I have literally zero clue on what happens in these books. The stories in them. I'm mainly here purely on the fact that I enjoy his art. Obviously, it's very unique, and he has obviously he's Japanese, so he has a lot of Japanese like calligraphy influence and that kind of thing in his art, and that's pretty obvious that he plays into his heritage a lot. Just the subject matter alone, really shows that. But it really comes down to his technique and the inking tools that he's using, because you can tell that he's using a lot of traditional inking tools that would have been used a lot in Japan. This is awesome. Just decapitating a little turtle monster guy. Obviously foreshadowing that we're going to be seeing some Ninja Turtles later on. His cartooning and sense of expression, I'm probably going to shut this off so there's a glare. There we go. His cartooning and sense of expression, it really reminds me of somebody like a Will Eisner. And I know that Stan Sakai kind of comes from that Sergio Aragones school, so kind of that Guru background and everything like that, because Stan Sakai had sat with Sergio, and I think he had done lettering and things like that for him on Guru, and that's how they formed a relationship together. So you see a lot of that super cartooniness stuff come out. And if you guys don't know who Sergio Aragones is, again, he did a comic called Gru. He was a really big cartoonist for Mad. So I would suggest to look him up, because that dude is crazy good at drawing. I always like seeing people's renditions and how they draw the turtles. Obviously, I already knew what Stan Sakai's turtles looked like, again, from the toy line and everything like that. But it's one of my favorite designs, to be honest with you, and I think that NECA is doing a 4-turtle Stan Sakai line that they just announced at, I don't know if it was at Toy Fair, or if it was at San Diego Comic-Con. I think it was New York Comic-Con, actually, where it was announced at. But they got a full line of the Stan Sakai turtles coming out, which is pretty sick. But yeah, I think like the normal like Mirage Turtles, and then probably like this version of Turtles in terms of like the comic book wise is what I like. I think that Freddie Williams, his run on the Turtles of Grayskull, and he's done prior things to that, but they're just slipping my mind. I think he does a really good job, because a lot of his work is actually traditional, so he's using pencil, ink, paper, and that sort of thing, and it gives it a lot of his scratchiness and everything like that. Kind of gives it that old Kevin Eastman vibe, which I really appreciate. Because I think Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird's turtle designs, they're the originals. Those are the best ones, especially like the original Mirage run. That's what I prefer. So give me a Kevin Eastman turtle any day of the week. One of the things that I've noticed since we've kind of been flipping through this, his backgrounds are pretty basic, but they do enough to get the point across on what's going on and where they're at. It's literally just, let's put 2 trees back here. That's always done to it. That's all it needs. And when I'm drawing my comics and pages, I try to put the least amount on the page that's possible to get the point across for like the image that I'm trying to draw. And then I will build off that, and if I don't need to add more things to get the point across, I don't. It's kind of like that punk rock mentality to where it's just like, strip it down to the basics. This is what it is. This is what it needs to be. It doesn't need to be any more than this. And if it was any less, it probably would fall apart and wouldn't work. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. And I was standing in the comic shop, like I said, last weekend, and I was just sitting here staring at this Ultimate collection. I have a vast majority of the Mirage books just in single issues, but the first like 5 issues I do not have, actually. So it's like picking something up like this would be beneficial to me, mainly because those Mirage books, as early ones, are stupid expensive, and then plus it's like they're in larger format, and then you get insights from Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird and so on and so forth, like direct commentaries, it says. But it's like a $35 book, and I just haven't pulled the trigger on it yet. But man, I stared at it the last time I was in the comic shop thinking about it, because I always had turtles on the brain. So I was looking at the alternate covers, and I remember seeing this one specifically, this Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. This would have been, if this camera will focus here, this is an homage to Tournament Fighters. It's a game that Konami put out on the Super Nintendo, and it's actually a very good fighting game. It stands up against Street Fighter and everything else that was out at the time, and they put Tournament Fighters in that Cowabunga collection. In that Cowabunga collection. Here, let me fix my camera here quick. That came out like 2 years ago, I want to say, when they like re-released a bunch of Turtles video games. That was one of them that they ended up porting to that collection. Another wraparound cover. I think that maybe all of these are straight up wraparound covers. Yeah, they looks like they are. Interesting. I didn't realize that when I first pulled these out. So another wraparound cover. Again, just like his expression. I like this when people draw the little beaks on the turtles, because when you actually look at the original Ninja Turtles, or just turtles in general, they have tails and they have beaks. Eventually, they got away from doing both of those things on the comics, and I think that's purely because they had to make it more kid friendly. Obviously, the tails can be a little phallic in some cases, so they removed those from the toys as well, because they weren't in the cartoon, but they had tails on the original toys. And then after like that first handful of waves, I think they pulled the toys off, or they pulled the tails off, because parents were complaining that it looked like turtle dicks were hanging out. So what are you gonna do? But I kind of wish that you would see more people drawing the little beaks on them. All right, so we got Dagu number 2 here. Great splash page. Yeah, his cartooning it's extremely unique, but it just sticks out like a sore thumb. It's like you see it and you just instantly know it's Stan Sakai, and that's something that I think every artist kind of chases, is just being able to be spotted out in the wild, because so many people look the same, especially if you're in like your superhero genres and things like that. It's like so many people just blend together. It's like you can't tell who did what in most cases. And to be fair, it's like a lot of that could be because of editorial reasons. You know, it's like, hey, you're going to do it the Marvel way because you're at Marvel, so on and so forth, which I understand. But that's one of the reasoning as to why I really enjoy, the absolute stuff that DC has been doing, is because they're kind of letting their artists and writers branch out a little more than rather than just constantly beating them over the head with, the same comic that 5,500 other people have made before them and just continuously just cranking out the same thing over and over and over again. Let the creators speak with their creativity, and cool things are going to happen. It's like I've said it a million times. It's like give Jim Mahfood just like a straight up Batman one shot and just let him do whatever he wants. It's like obviously he's done Savage Street Vigilante, which that in and of itself is just a Batman bootleg comic, but you know what I mean. They're like a straight up sanctioned DC comic, and just let a batshit crazy cartoonist just go nuts on it and put it out, and it's like it would sell like crazy, and I guarantee you that it would. It's just the companies aren't willing to take the risks, and that's not something that that I really understand, because it's like, how are you ever going to progress or grow as a company if you're not taking risks, but especially if you're in the comic book industry. It's like when you look at all the dudes that did take risks and they're super successful, like your Robert Kirkmans and your Image guys, so on and so forth. It's like if they never took those risks, those things never would have happened. So when you constantly just play it safe, like a lot of these bigger comic book companies do, it's not really not going to do a lot for them in the long run, Yeah, I got this. I picked this up off Amazon like during Christmas time, and it was like 75% off on Amazon. It's like a steep sale. Highly recommended. Obviously, I'm a big Will Eisner fan, but you see just raw Will Eisner art, it's chef's kiss, man. You don't get any better than that. This Turtles Adventures had come out, and recently they put out an Archie Turtles like compendium or omnibus. So if you're into those Archie Turtles stuff, like recently they put out like the first, I don't know, like 12 to 20 issues. I don't remember how many it is, but there's a collection of them that came out recently. It's kind of a pricey book. I think it's like a $50 book, but obviously, like I said, if you're into the Turtles, the camera just keeps sagging. Something wrong with my mount. Just give me a second here. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. It just keeps sagging. Whatever, we'll just leave it. All right. Gonna move on to number 3 here. Let's check the chat, see what we got going on. All right, cool. All right, so number 3 of the Doggo run, and I think out of the splash pages or the double covers that we've seen, I really like this one a lot. There's a lot more action that's going on it rather than just some like iconic shots. So this is something that just flipping through this is what I've kind of realized, is that obviously he's playing a lot into that Japanese background / influence. This reads very fast like a manga. It's like, while we've been sitting here, I've been running my mouth. I've been, kind of like reading it. I'm a very good context reader, so I can kind of just look at the image, look at the the speech bubble, and then I just got it like that. I don't need to sit here and stare at it for 100 years. When I stare at it, it's more for the art. But just like his cross hatching here, it just looks like it just ripped off of a Japanese cloth. You ever see those like little Japanese like hand towels? Is what it reminds me of. But yeah, the coloring is fantastic. Obviously, it's like they're down here in a little hole, and you can see just from here to here, their skin tones change a little bit to show that they're underground. It's good coloring and shading techniques. I'd be really curious to see how these books play in black and white. because I think that his work is simplistic, but it's also very complex at the same time. And it really comes down to his compositional drawings. Like, these aren't the hardest things in the world to draw, but just like his composition is just very, very good. It's like obviously this dude is out in the distance, and it's like his perspective is fantastic. And if you're somebody like me who kind of struggles a little bit with perspective, it's like I got to pull out those perspective grids and really run on those to get perspective, because it's like I struggle with it, but that's something that I recognize as a weakness of mine that I need to work on, and that's what I do. The way that I kind of look at perspective and use it to wrap my head around is I think of it as more of a scale thing rather than a distance thing, if that makes sense. So a lot of people, will think of perspective as, hey, it's like something up close and then out far. And it's really hard for them to wrap their brain around, oh, how do you make it look right? How do you tilt the figure or whatever you're drawing off in the distance to make it look like it's on that plane? The way that I think about it is the scale of the item. So draw like your one main thing, like your focal point and what you want it to be. So like if, for instance, this dude right here is your focal point, is what you would want to do then is think in your head, okay, he's this big. If you were to move out 5 feet, like think visually, like if you had a camera or something like that and you're snapping a picture, how would something look if it was 5 feet away, like down off of a stage, right? And then you just kind of make your things smaller and smaller and smaller as you go, and then you lose more and more detail further as you go out. And then from there, you want to draw, your ground and your ground plane. And I know a lot of people will do the trick to where everything is kind of on the same plane. So when there's a bunch of figures kind of standing, in the distance and everything like that, it's like line their heads up with here are the guys in the foreground, here are their heads, and then the guys that are in the background that are smaller, their knees will meet with like the heads in the front eyeballs, and then you keep that consistent. So if you draw another layer, it's like those ones in the back will meet with that second layer on their heads to their knees, and then that's like a good way to consistently keep the same perspective and distance as you're building your page out. This is pretty interesting. So let's go ahead and pop this here. So I was just looking. Am I just smoking the crack? Hold on a second. Okay, wow. It's just because it's literally just the cover for the next thing. I'm like, wait, wasn't that drawing just in the last issue? It was just advertisement. Again, another good splash page. I still don't think it beats the one that we were just looking at, but it's pretty good composition. Again, just his composition work is top notch. It's like Stan Sakai and Eric. Man, why is his name slipping my mind right now? It's terrible. Dude on Ink Pulp. It's terrible. I can't remember his name right now. But yeah, his composition work is just insane. I think like his is like top tier, and I don't think there's anybody in comics that has better composition than Eric does. But Stan Sakai ain't short off. It's like I think that Canetti, that's his last name. Jesus Christ, I don't know why I could remember that. Eric Canetti's drawing skills are so refined. It's like he's kind of at a point to where he could just do whatever the hell he wanted and doesn't get held back by his limitations. If he even has any, that's something I'm kind of curious about to ask him. I'll have to throw it in the Ink Pulp like Discord chat or something to ask, like what their downfalls are and kind of what they want to grow on. Like I know that Sean kind of wanted to do more black and white simplistic work this year. That was kind of like a goal of his besides getting into tattooing. But I'm not too sure about Jim and like Mateo and Eric and those guys. Kind of what their goals were for the year in terms of building on their art. But this is very much like a traditional Japanese looking dragon here. I'm gonna shut this off again. So yeah, they're fighting a mecha dragon, because why the hell not? It's a comic book. You gotta do comic booky things. I've never really been a fan of like anthropomorphic like animals, you know what I mean? It's like I grew up watching Hanna-Barbera cartoons, and like even then I thought it was strange. Like I don't know, like I get it, but at the same time though, it's like there's a the furry community and everything like that. Like there's an obsession with anthropomorphic animals, and to each their own. But it ain't my thing, man. Something that I kind of tolerate when I see it. See, just look at Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird's designs. They're just the grittiest looking turtles. You just don't get any better than that, man. It's so good. All right. And then this is the 5th and final issue here on the run. Go ahead and open this up and take a look at it. So this one's pretty chaotic, and to be honest with you, it's really hard to grasp what the hell is even going on here. Just way too much. This is a term that like you would use in music production, but it's like sound massing. I think is what you would call this here, is like color massing, possibly. But basically, we're just big blobs of whatever, and like sound massing. In music terminology, it's where you're literally just throwing a wall of sound at people, and it's anything and everything, just getting thrown at them. So it's kind of like a kitchen sink approach, and that's kind of what I see here. Just a lot of shit going on. I don't know if it necessarily works for a cover, right? Because like if you're looking at this from a distance, even through the camera, like it's hard to parse what the hell is even going on here, because there's just so much drawing. I feel like if they cut like 50% of the turtles out, it would be a lot more manageable in terms of the clarity. Which is kind of interesting, because when you think of Stan Sakai, it's like you think of clarity and just his again compositional work. But everything can't be a hit, so we'll give you the pass, Stan, just for today though. Good stuff, man. Yeah, this is a really cool panel, kind of showing the size of this dude and how these the turtle's got to kind of jump up on his back and everything. Good sense of scale. I like how Raph's size don't even look like it would actually cut somebody. Just super round and dull. Which in the grand scheme of things, it's like you don't really think that would be a good weapon of choice, especially going up against these guys. I get it that Raphael's got to stay on brand, but having the range really pays off. It's like Mikey even has way more range than the size dude, so it's like you're kind of bringing a knife to a gunfight in that respect if everybody else has long-ranged blades, Yep, good stuff. Yeah, his cartooning here. And I'm a big proponent to white eye turtles. I'm okay with the pupils when they do add them in there, but I definitely prefer just straight. Give me the white eyes, OG turtle wise. I don't even think they started putting pupils on them until the cartoon, now that I think about it. So. But yeah, that's that. It looks like they just put a little short story in the back here, kind of advertise the book. So every time I see this font now, so I use this font all the time. It's like you go to my website right now, it's like generally, it's like this is the font that I use. This is Della Gothic 1, and every time I see it, it sticks out like a sore thumb now. Alright. Well, that wraps up the Stan Sakai Turtle stuff. It was kind of cool to flip through that and take a look at, at the artwork and everything like that. Definitely excited to actually sit down and read some of it. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the things that I pulled from the toolbox. All right, so You'll Do Bad Things #5 had come out. I'm really big into this series. I think it's a pretty good series, especially for a modern image book. I will just kind of flip through this here real quick. So we got Tyler Boss, Andriano Turatucci. Sorry if I'm butchering her name, brother. Man, okay, you can read. I'm not even gonna try. But this comic has a very European feel to it, but also it has like a lot of design work that you would see in like a European book, and just kind of like the drawing style is very European, and like the coloring is very European, but the subject matter is very Western. If you guys aren't on this, I'm sure that they're probably going to release a trade of this, but I highly recommend it. It's definitely kind of a murder mystery slasher kind of book. So a lot of killing and everything like that going on, mystery, all that kind of stuff. So highly recommend it. The gore and like the graphicness of it, it's pretty tame, to be honest with you. Like, I think this is honestly, like, you could give this to, a 12 to 13-year-old kid. It would be perfectly fine for them to read something like this. Like, you don't get anything outside of a little bit of blood, but it's a pretty good series. So definitely recommend to check this out. All right, so then we got Bitterroot: The Next Movement. So they did a 5-issue miniseries. Bitterroot, I think this is the third series of stories that had come out for Bitterroot. They finally wrapped it up. I'm a big fan of Sanford Green, and he was one of the original creators on it. So I really like what was going on in some of these issues, but it got really hard to read it at certain points, especially like starting it. I think like the first 2 issues, it's kind of more exposition. It's a lot of world building for what's going to be happening, in like issue 4 and 5, really. So it's kind of hard for me to recommend to pick this up for like the story, because like I said, it's a slow burn, especially at the start. But once you get like 3, 4, and 5, it really builds up a lot. But if you're into good coloring and good art, I think this is a really strong book in that respect. So if you give 2 shits less about the story, I would definitely pick up any of the Bitterroots. But the Next Generation, I think is what this is called, Next Movement, it's got some good shit in it. It's like, look at this. This is like something you would see in a like Johnny Quest comic, like a modern Johnny Quest comic, which we have some of that we'll be taking a look at. So this is kind of like one of my pet peeves that I see. Let's go back here. So like doing a double page spread with like panels down on the bottom, and then on the next page, it's another double page spread with panels at the bottom. It's like the same composition. Instead of it being 4 panels, they only turned it into 3. But just like visually, when you're flipping through the book to like a standard reader, it's not enough to break up all of the sound that's on the page, is like the best way I can describe it. It's you have to give palate cleansers, because it's just too much information hitting you in the face, and then you go to the next page, and then it's a bunch of information hitting you in the face again. So you need more contrast on your pages, and this is kind of missing negative space. It's like same thing with this. There's just so much going on the page. Gotta have more negative space in your work, because it's just like sensory overload on stuff. So like this is a good page right here. It's like you don't need to draw a bunch of shit in the background. It's like, look, just literally give it a color, put a screen tone on it, something to make it stand out. But you don't need to constantly overdraw things, and that's like, again, kind of come from that hardcore punk DIY kind of background. And it's like Raymond Patabone is a big influence on me. And it's like you look at his work and he draws backgrounds, but they're very basic. I think that's all you need. They don't need to be super detailed. And obviously there are some people that can get away with it. Your Mobiuses, your Jeff Darrows, and guys like that. But they're using colorists that complement their work. So it's like what he's using a Stewart on a Shaolin Cowboy. And it's like you look at that, there's a lot of shit that's going on those pages, but because the coloring is more tame, it's not as vibrant and saturated. It's easier to look at as opposed to something like this where like the colors are just like smack you in the face, you know what I mean? So it can be hard to look at in long stints. But they finally wrapped that up, so that's done. And then I've been like last year, my book of the year was the Dynamite Space Ghost run that had come out. And then they started up Space Quest. So Space Quest is the crossover between Johnny Quest and Space Ghost. And they've done this in the past before as well. They call it Future Quest. I do have a couple issues of that. But Mark Spears cover, his artwork is, I'm really not a fan, but, you can pull his artwork out of anybody. It's just kind of, he's another one of those guys that you can just see it and you know that it's Mark Spears right away. But this is the Johnny Quest team, because I think they stopped the Johnny Quest comics and the Space Ghost comics. I think those are done now at this point. So then the Johnny Quest team had kind of come over here and started doing the work on this book. But yeah, this has been a fun read. I've been waiting for these issues for whatever reason. Like, I mean, you guys are aware, but all the shit that went down with like Diamond and other distribution companies recently. My shop has just been having a hard time like getting the stuff that they actually ordered. So it's like Tramps of the Apocalypse. He ordered for me. Went into the shop, told me, hey, it never came in, couldn't get it for you. And then same thing with like these Space Ghost issues or these Future Quest issues. It's like he gave me both 2 and 3 at the same time because they were behind by 2 months on shipping the books out from the distributors. It's kind of nuts, actually. But that's what happens when you pump all of your baskets into, or all your eggs into one basket, man. It's like, that business fails, what is everybody else going to do? The answer to that is jack shit. So I know that people are currently trying to solve that issue, make other distribution models and things like that. You want my opinion? It's like going direct to consumer. I know it's like some corporate speak bullshit, but that's what it is, man. It's like straight up like going straight from the creator to to the reader. I think that's the way to go. And these companies got to realize that like they need to come up with their own distribution systems rather than depending on other people's. Like any other company, right? It's like they figure out their own distribution and they do it their way rather than every single mattress company or whatever. They don't use the same shipping company because that would be fucking stupid. Because if that shipping company goes out of business, then what are you going to do? I get why it happened in the comic book industry because, in 96 when the comic industry collapsed, everybody and everyone was like trying to work together, band together. Diamond just coming through and buying up all these smaller publishers to feed themselves. But then they became the only game in town. And then when that game in town folds, what are you going to do when the shit hits the fan, right? So... But yeah, I was a really big fan of both the Space Ghost and the Johnny Quest stuff when it had come out. I kind of wish that the Space Ghost team got thrown onto this because I prefer the art in those books. But my big claim to fame on these the Johnny Quest books and the Space Quest books is just the coloring in it is just like fantastic. Lorenzo Scaramella has been killing it on these issues. He's probably my favorite colorist right now. let me fix my camera here. It sags quite a bit. All right. So as you can see, number 3 as well. Like I was saying, it's just for whatever reason, man, it's just the distribution stuff. They're 2 months behind on their issues on getting them sent out. Not only does it suck for like comic book shops, but it just sucks for like these companies in general because they're trying to get their books out to these people and they can't, right? So it's kind of shitty. But yeah, some of these like older Hanna-Barbera designs. So when you look at monsters from like those old Hanna-Barbera cartoons from the 60s and 70s, they all have like these big googly eyes with like these really big white highlights on them. Like you see it in Herculoids a lot, especially. So that's just kind of an example of that. It's like talk about some D tier Hanna-Barbera shit right here. Blue Falcon and Dynamite. Lord have mercy. I don't know. Like, I get that this Dynamite has been really playing into like the vintage properties. So, what the hell else do I have sitting over there? All like Powerpuff Girls and Thundercats and Silverhawks. They're doing. At a certain point, you gotta stop, man. I get that licensed comics make a shitload of money, especially because it has the IP recognition on it. But it's like, do we really need a Blue Falcon and Dynamite comic? Like, awesome if this thing is the greatest comic that ever happened, but this cartoon fucking sucked as far as I remember, and a lot of those Hanna-Barbera cartoons were not good, especially Dynamite. Just terrible stuff. Whatever, man, you do you. I don't think that book is going to do very well, in my opinion, but who knows. If it does do well, I'll gladly eat crow on that, but I don't think it's going to make any waves. It's probably going to be like a 3 to 5 issue run and be donezo. Oh, here we go again. Another property, Wizard of Oz. Dynamite is turning into the Charlton comics of the 2020s. Just nothing but licensed comics, and then what are you gonna do when the licenses stop coming? You don't have your own IPs, you're fucked. So, I don't even think that Dynamite even has their own books. I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't think they have like any original IP. I'm fairly certain it's just all nothing but licensed stuff. Hell yeah, man. Space Ghost taking on some kaiju. So it's like, look at this. Do we need a Chitara comic book? Probably not. Do we need a Captain Planet comic book? Probably not. And then Thundercats and Silverhawks. Like I was saying, it's just like, I don't know, man. Come up with your own original shit. I just keep yanking on this camera today. Just terrible. It's kind of in a spot to where I usually don't have it set up, so that's why I keep bumping into it. So I apologize. I'm going to fix this here for us quick. I'm going to switch the cameras here. I'm just going to switch it to the screen so that way you guys don't get motion sick of me moving this. I'm going to move it back. Just give me a second. The glories of being able to have a PZE camera. I can just move it on the whim. We'll probably go for like another 20 minutes or so, then we'll be all done ski. Alright, cool. Let's send it. Oh, and then my camera's off now. What the heck? Give me a second here, guys. I think my software crashed. Yeah. Get that all fixed up here. There we go. Awesome. And I'm going to go ahead and move this for us again. Cool. There we go. So yeah, this is the first Thundercats Powerpuff Girls issue. When did this come out? Because I also think that this was also late. Does it say what month it came out? It does not. Because I'm fairly certain this came out in like June, possibly July. But again, one of those books that was behind on the comic book shop getting it because of the distributor. But the Powerpuff Girls comics have honestly been top tier. And I was telling Dave or West Coast Defenders about them last night. He kind of like scoffed it off. But I'm telling you, if you're a fan of the cartoon, it's like these are top tier comics. I'm not too sure about this Thundercats crossover that they're doing here. But the just the original Powerpuff Girls comic. Oh boy, here we go again. The Blue Falcon. They're really pitching this one. It's fantastic stuff. I don't know how I feel about the Thundercats kind of being in this this style. Really doesn't work for me because when you look at the Thundercats, like their animation style, it definitely has a very Japanese like manga look to it. Especially for the time, I really didn't see a lot of that, you know, over here in the West. More of an Eastern thing, so. Alright, I don't know if we're really going to continue to flip through this. Just take a look at some of these variants. None of these people, I know who they are. They're doing these variant covers. Never heard of a single one of these people. I would fuck with this plain. Man, my camera's just sagging bad today. We actually might cancel it soon here. What is going on? I'm gonna shut this off again. I'm sorry. It's terrible. Yeah, my stuff's just freezing right now. I'm gonna try to get this set back up here. I think I'm not too sure what's going on with that. It's the mount is just doing whatever the hell it wants. It's kind of annoying, but it is what it is. Alright, let's get this fixed. Cool. Might be time for a new camera mount. I mean, the thing's like a year and some change old at this point. I mean, it was a cheap ass piece of shit when I first bought it originally, anyways. So probably just need to get a beefier one so it doesn't sag like that. It's like you barely touch it and the thing moves like an MF. Alright, so this Dick Tracy run, I'm fairly certain that I told the comic shop that I wanted taken off of this. My biggest thing with these comics is we're at 11 issues now, and every single one of them has the same exact back cover. It's like some of the laziest fucking things I've ever seen. Like, you really couldn't make up another back cover. But Geraldo, he's actually in the Ink Pulp community, and he constantly shares pages. And I remember seeing this page like a couple months ago. He had shared it in Discord. the cartooning and everything like that is amazing in these comics, but the reason why I wanted taken off of it is because I love the original Dick Tracy. You know, Chester Gold is a big influence of mine, and oh wow, I am fairly certain this is a reference image of a building in Columbus, a restaurant. I'm fairly certain it is. I can't remember the name of it though, but yeah, it's like same sign design, and like the reason why I remember it is because it also had like this ramp with a railing that looked exactly like this, same shape and everything. So fairly certain. I wish I could remember the name of that diner in Columbus, but I think that's what the reference image is. But yeah, one of the reasons why I love Dick Tracy so much is because of the outlandish characters. You know, just the zaniness of the world itself, that cartooniness, and then you try to ground that in like this whatever Dick Tracy universe this is. I don't think it works as well, right? Now you just have a generic noir comic, you know, police comic, rather than it having a dude that you know is constantly sweating, and a dude named Flathead who literally just has a big ass flathead on him, and the two-way radio watch and all that kind of stuff. All that stuff is gone out of this comic, you know. Don't really appreciate that, but it is what it is. But yeah, I told him probably like 10 issues ago. No, it's probably like 2 or 3 issues ago to stop putting these in my damn pull box, and he keeps doing it. And it's like, hey man, I don't want these, and he just kind of stares at me, and it's like, gives you that awkward silence, you know. So it's like, I guess I'll just get it. Kind of one of those things. I don't know. It's a cheap ass book, so who cares? Yeah, I think that's probably where we're gonna wrap it up, though. I'd keep going, but it's like I kind of got annoyed by the camera a little bit, so it is what it is. So to round off everything, again, I'm going to be at EddyCon in September in Pittsburgh, so that's going to be the 13th and the 14th, I believe it is. Let me double check that again. Yeah, the 13th and the 14th, 11 to 7, and then 12 to 6 on Sunday. It's going to be a good time. Jim Rugg, Tom Scioli, Jim Mahfood. So that's going to be cool. I'm going to have a bunch of stuff. So it's going to be overhauled like shortly after that. So that's going to be pretty exciting, and I can't wait to kind of get everything running and good to go. So there we are. Yeah, I had mentioned earlier or late last week that I was going to be putting up a hunt video from the local shop. I had went there and I forgot my microphones, so I attempted to record something purely just on my phone, and it ain't up to snuff. I'm just going to be honest with you. It's like it just doesn't work. It was sort of busy in there, so not having the the sound cancellation on the microphone to lower the decibel, so the noise gate. Can't set that on your phone, so it's like you hear a pin drop across the room, the phone's going to pick it up, and it's like I'm not going to sit here and edit that sound. I don't have the time to do that, so it's like I'll take a proper microphone over there with me, and we'll actually shoot something good, and I'll let the owner know that I'm going to be doing it, so that way maybe we can set up a time and everything like that to go into the shop and not have people present. I got a good relationship with them, so that's something I could probably do. So that's the plan. And then, yeah, I'm going to have a book up on Kickstarter probably like mid to late September. So in about 30 days, 40 days or so, once the pre-launch page is up, I'm going to be promoting the shit out of it. And then once it's up, I'm going to keep hustling it. I'm pretty much done with it at this point. I have 3 more pages to draw. I'm going to finish up one today and start up on another one. So honestly, this thing's probably going to be done by tomorrow. And then I just got to drop it into the old Photoshop, scan it in, and letter it, hit those levels, and the thing's pretty much done. It's like design-wise, I'm going to do just basic stuff, I think, for add-ons. Like I might scan in like my script and scan in my thumbnails and then put those in the back of the book, just kind of like to not only increase the page count, but to give people, the extra content, because I like seeing things like that in the back of books. I like seeing the thumbnails and the scripts and all that kind of stuff. It's just good content to kind of put in there for people that want to see that kind of stuff. Um, so yeah, and it's kind of interesting, to see, hey, here's what the thumbnail looked like, and here's what the original page ended up looking like in the long run. You can see the differences, and then plus in the script, it's like the way that I write scripts are more like screenplays that you would see in movies. So it's kind of like time, place, location, and then it's literally just lines of dialogue, and then what happens from there, I kind of do in the thumbnails. Um, but it's just interesting to see how even in the script what had changed once you actually started hitting the page. And it's like the same thing with the movie, right? It's like, this is what's on the script, this is how it was written, but once you actually get out there and start shooting the damn thing, it's like you make changes to make it work, or you make changes, creative changes, because you like it better that way, right? So that's the way that I'm rolling. But yeah, gonna be a busy late summer here, rolling into the fall. It's gonna be even busier. It's gonna be a 4-issue miniseries. Like I said, I'm pretty much wrapped up with number 1, and by the time that's out and it's like fulfilled through the Kickstarter and everything like that, issue 2 should be halfway done around that point. I'm kind of thinking. I need to finish up thumbnailing issue 4, so I have two and 3 completely done. But issue 4, I gotta get done, and I honestly was thinking only maybe doing 4 issues as opposed to the 5 that I originally had thought. And then just make the 4th issue just bigger in general, so that way I'm not making more pages, and then plus it's like, starting from 1 going downward, so your 2s, 3s, 4s, and all that, like the sales aren't always going to be as good. So just one of those things, like I just want the least amount of issues possible, so I can kind of move on to the next thing, because I'm already thinking about the next thing. So once this series is done, I'm moving on to the next one, and I think I'm just going to do a batshit crazy, just underground book. I mean, this is pretty batshit crazy as well, but lean more into like that Johnny Ryan isms that I like, and just kind of just make something just like you look at it and it's just like, what is this? So that's kind of where I want to be, and I feel myself leveling up page by page by page by page. So once it gets to that point, it's like there's got to be no holds barred. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm showing up. So, anyways, I'm off my soapbox. With that being said, I hope everybody has a good rest of their week. We will be back next Thursday, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, as always. And then hopefully there should be a video next week. No promises, but I'm going to try to get over to the comic shop and record something. We'll see what happens. But in the meantime, thanks for hanging out talking comics. Peace, everyone.